Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Albert Zbily. So Albert is the founding president of the International Federation of Corporate Football, FIFCO, which is the world's governing body for the sport of corporate football, which we call soccer in North America here. Putting working adults into a soccer field and encouraging a sound work-life balance is a lifelong passion that Albert has embraced for over 10 years. Albert has successfully expanded the federation to 60 countries and to 2.5 million amateur players. With over 20 years of progressive experience in government, international development, business, sports diplomacy, Albert has developed a keen acumen for business and development. And as an economist for the Federal Department of Finance to a strategic business advisor to company leaders in various industries, Albert has always brought a full macro perspective to business and to developing partnerships and business acquisitions through hard work, focused analysis, and a good sense of realism. Welcome, Albert.
Thank you very much, Manuj.
Awesome. So you have a very unique story, and you're working on something really unique. So I'd like to start there. Can you take us back a little bit? Because I remember you told me the story how you came up with the idea and you shared it with a few people, and there was some interesting conversations that happened. So can you share that with us and the audience?
So, everything started. I'm a former professional referee. So when I moved back here to Canada, I started working. One of the jobs I was working was with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. I was invited to a conference, and the researcher, McGill University researcher, was sitting next to me, and she was just describing to me how her research was involved in obesity in children, and how things were getting to pandemic levels. And when I heard the word pandemic, I was like, wow, this is an extreme word. This is huge. I mean, how bad is the problem? And she says, it's a pretty severe thing that close to half of children are diagnosed as obese. And I said, wow, is that because of poor food habits? Or and she says it's actually because the kids are not getting enough activity. And then she developed a correlation by saying, who's the biggest hero to any child? It's not the fact that there is, David Beckham and all these fantastic world athletes. She says the number one inspiration in any child is their parents. And she says if you get their parents active, you will get all the kids active as well, and will develop a more happy and more balanced lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so here was my epiphany. My epiphany was that how do you get adults active? And so I was working at the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, and I started calling some CEOs, and I started running this idea of putting together a corporate soccer league. And the backlash was, hey, this is not for us. This is a waste of time. Don't go down this path. Maybe you should stick to hockey. And I said, with all due respect, what if I don't know how to skate? And the first reaction was, well, I won't think very much highly of you. And so that was pretty much the atmosphere that I was facing when I started this endeavor. And so I got together with some buddies, and we just decided to cold call. And I spent about a year of cold calling until I finally found six corporate teams, and they were insurance, banking companies. And we got together, we played for a summer, and we enjoyed it. We loved it. I mean, we were out there in the fresh air, running, exercising, and we were, we were actually having fun playing the game. And so that was about 15 years ago. And now fast forward to today, we're in 64 countries now. So we are hovering very close to about 2.65 million players around the world, and we host a World Cup every year. And the beauty of it is that these are just regular working people. These are just me and you. We work. We're professionals. We have our careers. We have our jobs. But for that 1 hour a week, we're soccer players, regardless of our position, regardless of our social status. Regardless of everything, we're just regular soccer players. That's the fun part.
That's awesome. So what is different about this league? Because I have even though I don't play soccer myself, but I know friends and family, they have their own sort of local leagues or clubs they attend. So what is different about this league?
So you're playing with purpose, and it's easy to say that uh, because everyone plays with purpose. Everybody plays because they want to win. Uh, but what I would tell you is that you are playing first of all because you want to improve your health. You want to get a regular cardio exercise. Second thing is that you're playing with your colleagues.
Mhm.
So when you play with your buddies, it's not really the same thing because it's a very competitive. But when you're playing with your colleagues, I mean, these are the people that you have to go to the office with every single day. These are the people that you have to um, show that you are a good person, that you play well, that you are fair play, but that you're also building this kind of team cohesiveness because again, these are the people that you are working with every single day. This could be the accountant at the office next door. This could be the chief executive officer. This could be the secretary at the reception. Who knows? But these are the
Yeah.
people that you face every day. So you're now playing on a corporate team. The other purpose I would tell you is that you are playing to represent your company and eventually representing your country. So
Yeah.
if you progress, you never know. You might end up playing at a World Cup against other companies that are just like you from around the world and sort of, building that wonderful network.
That's great. That's awesome. And so, I'm sure if you talk to CEO and suggest this idea, one of the things that will come to their mind is like, oh, I don't want to lose productivity. I don't want to invest a lot of time and money, because this is eventually not going to contribute to the bottom line. But what are your views? Like, have you noticed anything that supports that argument, or have you noticed something against that argument?
So the World Health Organization issues a annual report every year.
Mhm.
And in that report, they give some very specific statistics. Excuse me. They give some very specific statistics as it relates to productivity in the workforce and health issues. And so the first stat that I think is very important is that according to WHO, 5 million people every year lose their lives because of non-active lifestyle.
Mhm.
So they get all kinds of diseases from the fact that they're not active, heart disease, high blood pressure, etc., etc. The other stat is, and it's a very important stat because AT Kearney comes out with an annual report of overall productivity in employees. And the most staggering number is that there's about $600 billion every year lost because of lost productivity,
Wow.
and the majority of that loss is the fact of absenteeism.
Mhm.
People are, and it's no secret, the majority of people are working paycheck to paycheck. They are just going into a job. They're there because they need the money. But now, if all of a sudden you start giving them purpose, all of a sudden that you start making them happier at their workforce, and there's a positive correlation between physical activity and happiness in the workplace. If you
Mhm.
start building those links, you're going to start seeing some very very aggressive numbers in terms of how productivity will increase in the workplace. I'll give you an example, and I think it's a very important example. I have an employee from one of the major banks, and he's in IT support.
Mhm.
And I said, how do you like your job? He goes, it's a job.
Mhm.
So I said, so what's your highlight of the job? He says, you're not going to believe me. He says, but my highlight is that every single day in the office, I do my job, but at the same time, I'm thinking of play strategy
Mhm.
because by the time Friday hits and we're playing, I'm focused. I know what I'm playing for. And can you imagine that this employee is working his entire week just to get up to Friday's game? And
Mhm.
he said that that's the atmosphere in the office, and that's the atmosphere with the other players who are also playing. So imagine now you've given him a lot more purpose. He's happy to be
Yeah.
going to work because it's with his colleagues. He's happy because he's wearing, the crest of the company. He's proud to do that.
Yeah.
Uh, Productivity in general, and a lot of the stats out there. I mean, KPMG writes a report as well every single year, uh, and productivity is directly linked with a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, that's great. So tell me, why soccer? As you mentioned, like it could have been hockey, which is the favorite sport in Canada, and you being in Canada, why did you pick soccer?
So believe it or not, I had two choices. It was either soccer or cricket.
Oh,
And
really?
and I figured, well, how fun would that be to introduce cricket into the Canadian market, because most of us don't know the game. But I opted for soccer just because, first of all, I mean, it is my background. I'm a former professional soccer referee,
I
but
see.
at the same time, soccer is the easiest sport on earth to play. I mean, what does it take? A pair of shoes and kick the ball.
Mhm.
Now, which direction will depend on strategy. But at the end of the day, it's just about running, kicking, and having fun. So it's just an easy game to play.
That's great. And so one of the other things that I noticed, especially, I'm an introvert and I know a lot of introverts go through this where they do want to play, but they haven't played, or they know they are not really good. So they shy away from sort of, making a fool of themselves on a field. Have you seen any of that behavior as well?
Every day, I see
Mhm.
that every day. I can tell you stories until your ears fall off. I mean, I'll tell you one story of one chap. I think he was about 47, 48 years old. He says, listen, he says, I've never played this game before. I've been watching it on TV. I watched the Cup. It seems so exciting. My office wants to get involved, but do you think I can play? So I
Mhm.
said, why not? I said, can you run? He says, yeah. I said, have you ever kicked the ball? He says, no, but I could try. I
Mhm.
said, perfect. You're the perfect fit. And he started playing. And, after the first game, he said to me, listen, I'm horrible. I said, it's okay. I said, I don't know if you looked around, but we're all horrible. I
Mhm.
said, it's just about having fun with your office, with your colleagues. I said, did you have a good time? He says, I loved it.
Mhm.
He stuck with us for about 3 years. So by the time he reached 50, he was actually scoring goals and having fun. And he says, I haven't had this much fun since I was a kid.
Nice.
And I really like this story because this game is for everyone. You don't have to be this superstar. You don't have to be this fantastic player. You just have to be a good team player.
Mhm.
Have a good attitude, have a good team spirit. You know, so what if you don't know how to play? But the rest of the players, maybe they do. And if you all collectively don't know how to play, it doesn't matter. You go out there, you play, you win, you lose some games. At the end, you might, share some beers. You might not, or you just create that sort of togetherness, which
Mhm.
makes all the difference. Because this kind of, this kind of this kind of team play is how can I say it? You bring that to the office. All of a sudden, you create this fantastic atmosphere. When you said to me an introvert,
Mhm.
that's the first thing I said to myself was that I remember one case where this guy was a portfolio manager, and believe it or not, he was an introvert. He didn't like to talk to too many people. He says, "Look, I don't want to be in front. I like my job because I'm in front of my screen all day." And I said, "Well," I said, "here you're going to be on the pitch." He completely flourished. He completely came out of his shell. He started making friends. He actually met his wife
Oh,
at the soccer field, and he said to me, this has been one of the best experiences because I got to meet so many people in my own company.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great.
What a fantastic story. I said, wow, I'm so happy that I can contribute to that. I'm so happy that I can give you the platform to network internally. I mean,
Yeah,
it's important to network out there.
yeah, yeah,
So if you're playing against another bank or you're playing against another finance company, whatever the case might be, you're creating that network. But imagine creating that internal network.
Mhm.
Getting to know who works on the sixth floor, who does accounts payable, who does payroll, because you always need to know who that person is. But imagine if you create those links. How fun would that be?
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, let me talk about the opposite end of the spectrum as well, because as we know, sports can create rivalries, and people can get very competitive. Have you had that experience as well?
Oh yeah, I mean, um, so I'm in Montreal. We have a lot of the gaming companies, the Ubisoft, all these online gaming companies, all these programmers, software developers, etc. And so two specific companies who were rivals
Mhm.
in developing games.
Mhm.
So one of them was playing in the league, and then the other competitor called me up one day and says, "Hey, we'd like to join the league." I said, "Sure, welcome." I said, "Where do you want to play?" He said to me, "I don't care. as long as we can play against this competitor.
I see. I see.
So I said, wow. I said, really? He says, yeah, we don't care. None of us know how to play, but we just want to play against them.
I see.
So I said, okay. So I put them in the same division.
Mhm.
And then the day came that they both started playing against each other. The rival team lost. But what they did was that they had their recruiter there and they
Mhm.
went over to the opposing bench and they recruited their top programmer. And then they were scouting them out. They
Oh
recruited
my
their
goodness.
top programmer, and believe it or not, they doubled his salary just so they can join the competition. So now the team that lost, the head program, called me up very upset, saying this is unacceptable. We can't accept this. And I was like, what am I supposed to do about this? I said,
Yeah.
this is supposed to be a fun environment, but the competition, believe it or not, transcends everything. And
Mm.
you will find it even on a field, to the point where a very strategic way of catching someone in a very relaxed atmosphere, because you know do you know which position this guy plays? Do you know what role this guy does at the company? No, you just know that this is the opposing team and this is your team, and that's it. But they
Mm.
were very strategic, very sort of sly about it. And the team that lost their head programmer, unfortunately, had to quit the team, quit the league, because they
See.
said, we can't afford to lose our top programmers. So imagine, right? Imagine at what level you see that competition. And
Mm.
of course, we always have derbies, right? Between, let's say, the two competing accounting firms, the two competing law firms. Uh, and there's always that kind of rivalry. Sometimes it can get nasty.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think in the general terms, they all appreciate this kind of competitiveness,
Right.
because they're very proud to say, oh, I beat the first company, or
Yeah.
the best company in the city. I beat them, and they like that kind of claim to fame kind of thing.
That's awesome. That's great. And so I'm assuming this is for both males and females, yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I mean, we do have male only divisions, but we are officially a co-ed
I see.
organization. On an international level, there's a lot of cultural
Yeah,
sensitivities there when you have, mixed teams.
yeah, yeah,
But we try to encourage it, because it's a corporate team. Corporate represents who works in the office. So
yeah.
men and women all work in the office.
That's
So
that's awesome. So now let's talk about the business. Like, you grew it from 0 to 2.5 million, which is, or 2.7, which is like, I mean, it's amazing feat, amazing achievement in its own right. Like, but how did you do it? Like, how did you, uh, first of all, ignore all the naysayers and, sort of carried
mm.
on with your mission? And how did you, accomplish this? Can you give us a little bit of an insight there?
so I mean, this is a fantastic question, because I still remember the first person I ever spoke about this idea. He looked at me and you said to me, Albert, don't quit your day job for this.
Hmm.
And I remember this clearly. I mean, how did I build it? A lot of it is, so my background is in macroeconomics, and I've also spent a lot of time at FIFA. So I've learned sort of the inner systems of how they operate. And macroeconomics allows you to sort of understand growth theory. And so I've kind of put this together, developed a business plan, and I started, slowly chipping away. Um, the first country to join was Canada. That was me.
Hmm.
And so naturally, I started searching, are there other organizations like myself in other parts of the world? And so a lot of cold calling. I'm a kind of person who's not afraid to get on the phone, or to contact people. So a lot of cold calling.
Hmm.
And then I realized that, in business, the best strategy is always to be face to face.
Hmm.
You will always be able to close a deal when you are face to face with a potential client, or, a potential supplier, whatever the case might be. And so I started investing in traveling to these countries and traveling to these members. And out of the 64 countries now, I have visited just under 40 countries,
Wow.
where I would go visit with them, spend my time, invest in the relationship, build these kind of links, and sell them on the core values.
Hmm.
I really believe that there's universal appeal, regardless of culture, regardless of language barriers, regardless of religion, color of skin, whatever you want. The basic human principle is what? Is that we are all humans We all social humans. We all need to interact with each other. And what better way to do it is through sport.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing.
And
Uh,
so
yeah,
that's the way it built.
that's great. So it seems like, even though you had an idea, you were passionate about it, people didn't believe in it earlier,
Mm.
but you pressed on. You continued to spread that message,
Yeah,
and there are 7 billion people on this planet. I mean, you found 2.5 million who agreed with you, right?
absolutely. And the naysayers are still there. Of countries and organizers in different countries who tell me, no, this is not a good idea. We're not interested. And I'm okay with that. I mean, the pie is large enough for everyone to take a slice. And so
Mhm.
we're just kind of taking our slice and building from it. So if countries want to join, great. We are more than welcoming. If countries don't, well, it's okay. There'll be others, and maybe later down the road they might be interested in. Many countries that I have solicited at the beginning of this organization have changed their mind over the years because they realize that we are serious. They realize that that we are actually doing what we are saying that we're doing. So
That's awesome.
I
And let's move on to the current day now. Obviously we are going through some challenges here. So can you share with us, because sports activities and group activities are the ones that are hardest affected by the pandemic. So can you tell us, how it has affected your business, your soccer league, and what is going on there?
So, pandemic wise, it's clearly affected business in general. I mean, many companies obviously are now sending all their employees to work from home. Um, the league has had to stop at several levels in terms of when the general quarantine hit back in March. Here in Quebec, we are now in a new sporting quarantine. But across the world, our members are facing the same challenges in terms of quarantining in their respective countries, canceling of their activities. The irony, which I find, is that uh, more than ever before, people need the physical activity.
Mhm.
The fact that we are now confined behind four walls
Yeah.
is increasing our sort of um, it's increasing other problems in
Yeah.
terms of mental health,
Yeah.
the lack of physical activity. I mean, we need this. Governments have realized that physical activity is a very important part for good overall health, not only in terms of physical health but also in mental health. And so we are still encouraging companies and our members around the world to use precaution and to follow the local government protocols, but not to forget that physical activity needs to be part of the daily diet.
Mhm.
And playing football or playing soccer or doing any sport for that matter needs to be part of the daily grind. Whatever you do out there, you need to take a couple of minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes away from your desk, away from your screen. Even if you walk around the block, just do something, just move. And that should help you, be happier in what you're doing every day.
Mhm. And so, now what is the plan? Like, as we were talking about earlier as well before this interview, parts of the world are closing down again because of
Mm.
increased infection rates and whatnot. So, in the long term, how do you see this unfolding, especially for sports, even for professional sports? A
Mm.
lot of people are uncertain about what is going to happen. Billions and billions of dollars are at stake, uh, in the sports industry, in the entertainment industry, hospitality industry. So what is your outlook on how these things are going to unfold?
This is going to be a very difficult recovery for people in sport, especially those running the professional leagues and professional teams. The fact of not being able to sell tickets within their venues, this is going to hurt and will hurt for the long term. We might even see some leagues folding, for that matter. I think for our sport in particular, in terms of corporate football, we've had to cancel our 2020 World Cup, which was supposed to be hosted in Dubai. Many disappointed companies, many disappointed players, but everyone does understand that this is a global pandemic, so we do have to be careful. I think that slowly but surely we will return back to our full force, we have postponed our activities for 2021, and hopefully we will get to that next level. And I think that as we progress, more and more companies will come to that realization that while we do need to be careful and we need to be precautious in regards to the pandemic, especially in terms of general safety of their employees, companies will be encouraging the continued physical activity of their employees, even in terms of playing a team sport. So
Yeah,
we see ourselves coming out of this pandemic hopefully stronger than ever. It has taken a bite in the finance part of a business, but we'll still be there. We will still be encouraging our core values and still be encouraging our future tournaments.
that's awesome. And so, since you talk with so many entrepreneurs, CEOs, or executives who are making these decisions and sort of participating in these leagues, what is the general sense in terms of how businesses is doing, how entrepreneurs are doing out there? I mean, we talked about sport, and obviously it has been affected, but I just want to get your take on what is the sentiment in general out there.
Well, there's still a lot of paranoia in the air. There's still a lot of negative perspectives in the air. Um, those that are working remotely and those that can work remotely are doing just fine. The gaming industry, online industries, all the services, the lawyers, the accountants, etc. They're doing just fine. Those that are suffering are those in the retail business, those in the restaurant business, those in the event business, travel industry. We had several Air Canada teams participate with us. We had Air Transat teams participate with us. All of them are, I've stopped
Hmm.
because they also don't know what's next for them. Are they going to still have a job? Can they still continue? We had five locally here. We had five restaurants who hosted their own teams with their own staff.
Okay.
Out of those five, only two survived. Three of them went bankrupt
Wow.
and have already declared bankruptcy, and so they're completely out of the game. A lot of the retail industry is suffering, um, and we see that because we're in contact with a lot of these entrepreneurs. Those in the retail business are desperately trying to move to an online virtual setup where they can still sell their goods online, but there's still a lot of adjustment to come. We're seeing this more and more. The cities have to sort of reinvent themselves in the sense where commercial real estate will become a question mark. Will people be really going back to the downtown cores to keep working in the downtown areas? Will the retail businesses still be there? Can they afford their monthly rents? All
Mhm.
these are question marks that will be defined in the next 6 to 8 months, where we will start seeing some clear strategies come out, and a lot of these businesses will have to reinvent themselves.
That's I do share those sentiments, and yeah, I mean it's a very uncertain time, but
Mm,
I'm pretty sure like we will come up with new ways of doing things, and
I hope so.
things will settle down. Now, are you also noticing any glaring mistakes people are making in terms of, because as we know, human nature, when we are faced with crisis, we don't always react in the best
Mm,
possible way, and we tend to get paranoid, as you said, or
yeah.
anxious or what have you. And in that stressful situation, we always tend to self sabotage. Are you noticing anything, any such patterns?
Well, I think that back in March, when we saw this pandemonium to buy toilet paper, is just an indication of how some people are reacting, sometimes unrationally. Look, I think the reality is that there's just way too much uncertainty. Canadians are generally very conservative in their approach to their everyday life, and the economy, generally speaking, needs some kind of sort of balance, some sort of certainty. I mean, you need to know that you can go to work every day, that you can collect your pay, and that you could pay for your mortgage and send your kids to school and take vacations and things like that. The fact that there's so much uncertainty is definitely causing people to think, differently. Or can they, should they be taking some time off? Should they be buying this? Should they be buying that? I think right now it's just a very difficult time, generally speaking. When the government set in motion to lock down everyone, no one really understood what was going on. Is this for real? Like, can you imagine that in today's world you would say, "Hey, by the way, your government is shutting you down. You can't leave your home."
Yeah, yeah,
That's surreal. No one would have thought that. I mean, we would think that we're watching some sort of sci-fi film, but in fact, this is the reality, and we have to live it. Now the question is can we adjust?
mm,
And those that understand the adjustment best are those that learn change the best way. If you can change, you will adjust very well.
yeah. That's so
uh,
true. That's so true.
but we're not all built that way, of course. Some of us don't like change, and change is a very strange concept. The older we get, the tougher it is to embrace. But I've always said, and I've always believed, that a good strategy is a flexible one. And
Mm,
I think that those that are flexible, and some cannot be flexible, but for those that can, and for those that can think sort of slightly out of the box, this is our time to shine, right?
yeah.
I mean, this is our time to be the most creative.
Mm,
Okay, so my storefront is no longer working. What do I do?
yeah.
Should I cut my losses? Should I shift online? How do I do that? you know we have to be flexible, and we have to start looking ahead. No one really predicted that the entire world would shut down.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
one.
Exactly.
But it happened. Now we lived it. So the fact that we're living it, uh, how do we adjust?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's going to be the important key.
I think you're absolutely right. And as you said, like a lot of people do not like change, but
Mm.
there are certain leaders who need to sort of lead the change, and then people start to find their way and sort of join, just like your league, right? Like you
Mm.
started off with the one team, and then ultimately have so many teams. So I
Correct.
think that's the need of the hour to think outside the box, adapt, and lead others as well. So. Uh, that was a very good a note to end on. Thank you so much, Albert, for being with us and sharing your story and a lot of interesting way of doing things. Like I have never heard of a corporate soccer league before, and this was a great innovative idea. And I wanted to make sure that the audience also gets to hear your story. So thank you so much for joining us. Now, before I let you go, can you tell us how people can reach out to you if they want to join your league? What is the process?
So thank you very much for the invite. I really enjoyed the conversation, and if anybody out there wants to join us, it's very easy. Corporatesoccer.ca is the Canadian league. So we are expanding across the country, and hopefully once COVID dies down, we can all enjoy a very nice afternoon in the park to play some soccer. On the international front, we are the International Federation of Corporate Football, so FIFCO, FIFCO.org. Now 64 countries and counting, and we're going to keep on going strong. The next World Cup will be in Dubai, hopefully next year.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. And wish you all the
Thank
best
you.
for the World Cup. And I'll keep track of it and see who wins.
Fantastic. Thank you, Manuj. Pleasure.
Thanks so much. Thanks.